Good morning and welcome to this week's Grow, where we gather to recharge, organize, and work here as members of MWEG. This week we are excited to have Donna Carlson, who is our op-ed lab manager, and also she is an editing and writing specialist here at MWEG. So she does all things words for MWEG and makes our words and our writing polished and spectacular. And so today we are going to talk about the op-ed lab, what that is, and how our members can utilize this great tool that MWAG has provided to help us write op-ed and to get our opinions out there and to share our point of view in our community. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the time over to Donna to introduce herself a little bit more and then to share what she's about the op-ed lab.
Great. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and get started then, and hopefully our slides will come up, but if not, you just get to watch me and talk about this. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Donna Carlson. I'm the op-ed lab manager for MWEG. I've been doing that since August, so I'm still kind of new to it, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm an editor, and I do editing work for a few different companies. And I also fill in as a sub sometimes at my town library. So I love reading and books and the news and politics and government. I have 2 kids and I live in Massachusetts in a suburb of Boston. So I want to talk today about what the op-ed lab is and what it does and how it works and why opinion pieces are important and how they can make a difference. So, Rachel, are you going to run the slideshow or is that okay? Okay.
Yeah, can you see them? Okay.
I can see them. Yep. So I'll just tell you
when it's going to let us
change slide. Okay.
Perfect.
Great. So, what is the op-ed lab? It's a place where MWEG members can get help with opinion pieces they're writing that they want to get published, usually in their local paper. And it consists of myself and a couple of other editors. And our email address is opedlab@mweg.org. That's where we can always be reached. We don't really have a defined space online other than that email address, although there are some helpful resources on MWEG's website about writing op-eds. But stay tuned because we have something in the works. We're getting a nice space set up that will be accessible and fun and easy to use. The op-ed lab is free and it's a perk of being an MWEG member. Most of the time, the collaboration work between you and the op-ed lab is done through email and Google Docs. We'll work on what you wrote together and then you submit it, usually to your local paper. And I'll explain more about that in a few minutes. We are positive and enthusiastic and help bring out the best in your piece. There's no criticism, no harshness, just constructive feedback that you can do what you want with because it's your piece, not ours. And we may reach out to you on behalf of advocacy campaigns and calls to action. Sometimes we reach out to specific individuals to see if they'd be interested in writing for an advocacy campaign that MWEG is running if they live in a key state for a particular piece of legislation, especially if they wrote a compelling letter in a call to action. And just to clarify on that, and this is probably very obvious, the letters that are written to members of Congress using MWEG's advocacy tool for our calls to action aren't the same thing as an op-ed letter or a letter to the editor, but they can be great practice for doing that. Well-written CTA letters can provide a solid basis for writing an opinion piece. And that's sometimes when we might reach out to you to see if you would be interested in expanding on what you wrote and turning it into an opinion piece. And there's no pressure to say yes if we ask you if you'd be interested in doing that. It's totally up to you. And if you are interested, our advocacy directors can help supply you with factual information like the official name of the bill and the legislators that are involved if you're writing about something that involves that. They help ensure that you have the correct information. But that said, there doesn't have to be an official area of advocacy that MWEG is working on for members to write an opinion piece about whatever they want to write about. And you don't need to wait for an invitation to write about whatever you want, whether it's an area of advocacy or just something that you feel passionate about. So the Op-Ed Lab is basically a blend of helping women get their thoughts published either independently or as part of an advocacy campaign. MWEG members are always welcome to reach out to us. And like I said, sometimes we might reach out to you. We could go to the next slide. So what is an op-ed? It's an opinionated article submitted to a newspaper for publication. Op-ed is short for opposite the editorial page. An editorial, as opposed to an op-ed, is an unsigned opinion that states the position of a publication's editorial board. Opposite the page where they do that, so opposite editorial, is the public's opportunity to do the same thing. So op-eds are like guest pieces that are signed. And it represents a balance between those who provide the news and those who consume it. So both get to have their say. Most papers have websites where what they publish in print is published on their website as well. And some papers are only on the internet now, and all are valid places to submit op-eds to if they take op-ed pieces. Op-eds can also be called opinion pieces, guest columns, or guest essays. It varies by newspaper or website, but word count is usually around 600 to 800 words. They're written by members of the community, not newspaper employees, as I said before, unless it's a national paper like the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal. Usually the writers who submit op-eds live in the area that the paper serves. Sometimes pieces will get picked up and distributed to multiple papers in the region or around the country, and that's happened to some of the articles that MWEG members have written. The point of an op-ed is to communicate an opinion about a current issue to a broad audience. Topics are far-ranging and can be almost anything, from what's going on in government to the latest public policy debates to first-person experiences. Op-eds allow newspapers to present views they wouldn't normally be able to publish. If opinion sections, if they're true to the principles of good journalism, like to publish several different types of content in order to present a wide range of viewpoints and to encourage critical thinking and thoughtful debate. Next slide, please. So a letter to the editor is different from an op-ed. LTEs are what we know letters to the editor as. They're short, usually opinionated pieces written by a reader who wants to share an opinion about something, usually something they've just read or seen. So they tend to be a little more time sensitive and current than op-eds. It's kind of similar to like leaving a comment somewhere, but it's a comment that's been well written and thought out, and the standards are higher than they are for leaving a comment somewhere online. And 200 words or less is usually ideal, so they can be a less intimidating way to ease into writing for publication. Like op-eds, they can be about any topic of a reader's choosing. And also like op-eds, editors of papers and websites prefer to run letters that are from a person living in their circulation area, unless it's a national paper, and then it's open to anyone in the country. And examples of LTE topics could be sharing a political opinion, constructively criticizing something the paper published, or recounting a kind act that was experienced or witnessed. Next slide, please. Anyone can write an op-ed or a letter to the editor. As a citizen and member of the public, you have the right to have your opinions heard. If you don't think you write well, you can do it, especially with our help. That's one of the main reasons why MWEG has an op-ed lab and offers this tool to our members. You're probably better at writing than you think, but even if that's not the case, our editors can help you make your writing better and get it into good shape for publication. We do that mostly through collaboration over email and Google Docs. And for those who really don't like to write but want to get their thoughts and opinions out there in the form of an op-ed or LTE, you can send us a list of your thoughts, or we can have a phone call and we'll help write it up for you. We really are here to help and support you in whatever way you need or want. You don't have to be an expert at writing about the topic you're writing about. You have what you need if you have opinions about things that matter to you. The point of MWEG's Op-Ed Lab is helping individual women to share their talents, experiences, and opinions with the general public. It's an empowering and fairly simple opportunity for civic engagement, and it's available to all of us. Next slide. The way the Op-Ed Lab works is you write on your own about a topic of your choice and reach out to us if you'd like any help or feedback. Or if you have any questions about things like where and how to submit your piece to get published, you can contact us just about that, if that's all you need help with. If you want help with editing your piece, organizing it, writing it, getting legislative or other current information, or with submission, then email us at opedlab@mweg.org and we'll give you as much help as you want or need. Like I said before, we'll collaborate usually over email and Google Docs until it's done and ready to submit. If you're a Microsoft Word person, we can work with that too. One of our editors looks at what you've written and sends it back with suggestions and edits, and we collaborate back and forth for as long as it takes. Sometimes it's quick, and other times it takes longer because people are busy. And then we get it all finished up and you submit it, usually to your local paper. We ask you to notify us if or when it gets published and to include the link if there is one. We add it to our records, and sometimes we like to publicize our members' published opinion pieces on some of our social media channels and in other places, if you're okay with that. And sometimes legislators will even get tagged on social media by our communications team for your piece. If you get published on your own without using the Op-Ed Lab at all, please let us know. Obviously, you're completely free to write and get published on your own without any involvement from the Op-Ed Lab. We still want to know about your piece, and we ask that you send an email to us to let us know, along with a link to your piece if there is one. You can also post it in the Facebook discussion group. And the reason we like to know is because we keep records of pieces that our members publish, and some of them, like I said before, are great for publicizing on our various social media channels. And just to note that getting published refers to your piece getting published in either an actual paper newspaper, the paper's website, or an independent opinion or news website. Usually things that get published in the paper also get published online on the paper's website. Any of these are completely valid ways to be published. Your opinion piece doesn't have to mention MWEG or be about government or politics. You can mention MWEG in your piece or in your bio at the end of your piece if you want, especially if it helps inform what you're writing about, but you don't have to. It doesn't have to be about government or politics or peacemaking or MWEG's other guiding principles in order to matter. Whatever matters to you is important to get out there. And as I mentioned before, sometimes we may reach out to you and ask if you'd like to write an opinion piece on behalf of a campaign or a piece of legislation that we're trying to help get passed. And also sometimes we will reach out to you if you write something particularly compelling in places like the Facebook discussion group that we think could be turned into a good op-ed or letter to the editor. And then the process is the same it is for those who write their own piece, like on their own without us reaching out. We collaborate and we help you with submission if you want it. And you're always free to say no. We will not be offended if we reach out to you and ask you to write a piece and it just doesn't work for you. That's totally fine. And how does submission work once your piece is finished? Usually you will submit it yourself to the local paper of your choice. If it doesn't get published there after a few weeks, you can try somewhere else. We can help you find the right links to do this if you need help with that. It's usually a very easy process, and it's like an online form you fill out and then you copy and paste your piece right into it. Sometimes MWEG will submit a piece on your behalf because it increases the chance of it getting published, but that's not as common. Usually it's you that submits it on your own to your local paper, or to your larger city paper, or even a national one, if that's what you want to do. Many things do get published, especially on the local level, and some don't. It just depends on various factors that are mostly out of our control. There's no shame in your piece not getting published. Don't take it personally or feel bad about it or be embarrassed. There are wonderfully written pieces that get submitted and don't get published for whatever reason. And if you want, you can try again at another time with the same piece or a different one, or you can try submitting it to other papers. But that said, don't submit to more than one publication at a time. Next slide, please.
Donna,
Yes.
it was just making me think, maybe a year or so ago, and when you're talking about this submission, a couple MWEG ladies had worked on a piece and put our name on it, and so we were submitting it, and then we were given kind of a timeline. They said, okay, well, we'll look at it and maybe we'll publish it now. And then it didn't, and we were watching and it wasn't coming out. And I will just say, when you submit it, follow up. Like, that's a big part of, like, hey, I submitted this piece. I just want to make sure you got it. Can you tell me if you're going to publish it? Like, don't be afraid to go and ask them, like, did you get it? Are you going to publish it? That kind of thing. Like, definitely do the follow-up, even if you feel a little bit apprehensive about doing that, because sometimes I have to tell myself, they don't know me. They won't be mad if I follow up. Like, I'm just making a kind gesture, a little reminder nudge that I had sent this, and then maybe they haven't even seen it, because they do get a lot of emails and they get a lot of things.
Right.
So your reminder email may be just what they needed to say, oh yeah, I started that and I wanted to come back to it and I forgot about it. So that was one thing that I just thought, oh, don't forget to remind them. So
yeah, that's a great tip. That's a great point. Follow up. It will increase the chances. And like you said, things just sometimes like fall by the wayside a little bit. So following up is super important. I wanted to share some recent examples of opinion pieces that have been published by MWEG members. A number of these have been for our areas of advocacy. There have been several on behalf of the Afghan Adjustment Act. We've had both op-eds and shorter letters to the editor. One of the op-eds was published in 3 different places. It was first published on a national news site, and then it went to papers in Illinois and Pennsylvania. It was published in those papers. So that was pretty cool. Several have been published for the Contraception Access Project, including a piece that ended up getting published in 11 different papers across the country. So that piece kind of took off. Right now, we're working on the child tax credit. And a piece that we're working on right now is from a member who we reached out to based on her call to action letter about the child tax credit from earlier this year. She lives in an important state for that. There was a wonderful op-ed that was written by one of our members that was published this fall about peace building in a time of deep fracturing. One of our members wrote a beautiful piece about peacemaking and unity across political and religious divides that was published in her newspaper in Alaska. There was a great piece written about patriotism and the virtues of the Constitution. We had a really good piece recently that was published about the Speaker of the House election, so that was very timely. We helped one of our members with a relatable and heartfelt opinion essay she wrote about being politically homeless, but at home in the gospel. And for that one, she reached out to us for some feedback. She sent an email to the op-ed lab and just wanted some help from us with editing and organizing what she'd written. And so we did that. And then she submitted it herself when we were done, and it will hopefully be published in the next few weeks. We are currently collaborating with a member who we asked to turn what she'd written for a Small Victory Friday post in the Facebook discussion group into an opinion piece about her experience and thoughts on race and race relations. For these examples, some of the opinion pieces were short and quick, others were longer and took more time. Some were done through the op-ed lab, some weren't. Most were published in local papers. Some were more regional or even national and spread to other papers. It just shows that how varied the experiences can be of writing op-eds or letters to the editor and getting them published. And I just wanted to share some stats with you. In 2022, there were a little over 60 MWEG member and leader opinion pieces that were published in local and national news outlets. And this year, so far, we've had about 68 pieces published in 15 states and 27 different media outlets. So we'd like to continue on that upward trajectory, especially for the upcoming election year, and increase our representation around the country. Next slide. So why do opinion pieces matter, and do they make a difference in today's world? People do still read newspapers in the news, especially online. Sometimes it feels like newspapers are old-fashioned and increasingly obsolete, but people still read them, especially online. Smartphones and social media have made the news and opinion pieces about the news more accessible than ever.